Can I start?
Yes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and all present here. I, Dr. Pratik Mungekar. Today, I'm going to discuss with you all on a very interesting topic. But before that, I would like to introduce our university, International Internship University. IIU is the world's first internship-based virtual university, building a better and brighter future for all young learners, and it's committed to provide quality, accessible, affordable, skill-based, and location-independent education to learners across the world. IIU is providing access to more than 1,000 plus courses and internships to their e-learners across the globe. With the team of high caliber and experienced global educators, IIU has been accredited and affiliated with the World Education Organization, which is WEO, and International Accreditation Organization, IAO, and collaborated with all the world's top universities and educational institutions through the platform of massive open courses, OOC, certificates and more courses. There is always that one person who has the vision, the thought, the idea behind a successful venture and organization. And if we talk about the man behind the success of International Internship University, is none other than our beloved co-founder of IIU, Mr. Piyush Pandit. He concocted the world's first virtual internship university during a pandemic, the International Internship University, the IIU. Now, I would like to share my screen with you all. Is it visible? Hello?
Yes, it's visible.
Is it visible?
Yeah, but it's not your PPT, it's your desktop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh, I just opened.
Yes,
PPT.
no, it's PPT.
Okay. Okay. So today's topic is methods of teaching science. I, Professor Dr. Pratik Mungekar from Mumbai, India. I'm a scientist, professor, global educator, published author, counselor, social activist, and an international speaker. I started teaching at 16 and have been working in the field of education and research as a professor, scientist, counselor for 12 years. Taught to more than 8,000 plus students and guided 4,000 the students' career counseling till date, and the count is still on. Honored with 650 plus national, state, and national awards. And this is 2 doctorates from all over the world and also 15 records. Written many papers and articles in various international magazines, journals, and in books. Co-authored many books and written one book on sustainable development goals, which has got many international awards. Visiting faculty in so many national and foreign universities. Working as a professor and global educator in International Internship University, IIU. I'm a president of Youth Development Council, IIU, and I participated as a speaker in many international conferences, appointed development of Atlantis. This is my section. Now I'll begin with today's topic. So this is an introduction. Science does not simply sit down and pray for things to happen, but seeks to find out why things happen. It experiments and tries again and again, and sometimes fails and sometimes succeeds. And so, bit by bit, it adds to human knowledge. This modern world of ours is very different from ancient world or the Middle Ages. This great difference is largely due to science. This quote is by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. As very rightly quoted above, our everyday is different from the earlier days, and this is largely due to the contribution of science in our life. We cannot live happy life without science. The science has become integral part of our life. Science has also influenced educational enterprise, and hence it is also the integral part of our educational system. Learning of science has become unavoidable part of general education. So in this today's chapter, we shall discuss the meaning, importance, and place of science in school curriculum and general and specific instructional objectives. We shall also learn about organization of science curriculum using disciplinary approach and integrated approach. Now, meaning of general science. The term science and general science are used synonymously. Einstein defines science as an attempt to make the chaotic diversity of our sense experience correspond to logically uniform systems of thought. According to the Columbia Dictionary, science is an accumulated and systematized learning in general uses restricted to natural phenomena. According to Science Manpower Project, science is a cumulative and endless series of empirical observation which results in the formation of concepts and theories, with both concepts and theories being subject of modification in the light of further empirical observation. Science is both a body of knowledge and a process of acquiring and refining knowledge. So according to Greeks, in the literal sense, science means the pursuit of knowledge, but it has a wider connotation for our purpose and can be said to mean a knowledge of nature in the widest possible form. On the basis of these definitions of science, we can say that science is a study of natural phenomena. It is organized and systematized learning. It is a body of cumulative and ordered observations. It is the knowledge based on observations, experiments, and science is a process as well as the product. Importance of general science. The modern civilization is a scientific civilization. In this age, the modern society is completely drawn into the scientific environment. Today, science has become an integral part of our life and living. Now, we cannot think of world without science. The importance of general science in day-to-day life may be summarized as under first, agricultural advancement. So the science has revolutionized the agriculture field. The new scientific understanding of the nature of living creatures, both plants and animals, has led to a spectacular improvement in agricultural technology. Science has brought revolution in mechanism of agriculture to which Indian farmers have readily accepted. The effective use of fertilizers, pesticides, modern methods of cultivation, improved varieties of seeds, etc., are few examples of importance of science in the agricultural sector. Science gives information about insect control, cattle disease, use of manures, and health measures help a farmer and his family. Second is health, very, very important. Science has helped all of us in improving our health. The old prejudice of vaccination has broken down with the result of that smallpox has been practically wiped out. Science has proved to be a savior to mankind where contagious diseases and epidemics have been prevented by scientific techniques. Due to contribution of science, an average life of an individual is increased from 32 years in 1950 to over 55 years today in India. Next is trade and industry. The ways and processes of trade and industry have been changed due to impact of science. Industries have become advanced due to advancement in sciences. For example, industries such as textile, steel, electronic, drug, small scale have been advanced due to advancement in science. In the world of various commissions, the wealth and prosperity of nation depends on the effective utilization of its human and material resources through industrialization. The use of human material for industrialization demands its education in science and training in technical skills. Industry opens up possibilities of greater fulfillment for the individual. Next is very, very important, education. Facilities for study of engineering, medicine in different branches have been increased due to development of science. As a result, various new branches in different disciplines have emerged. This provides more opportunities for jobs in the market. Next is other beneficiary areas. So this include transportation, banking, communication, entertainment, digitalization, and media. So place in school curriculum. Science is an important subject in school curriculum, as you all know, because man's future depends to a large extent on scientific advances and development of productive activity. Hence, there is a great need to teach science in school curriculum. So, I strongly emphasized that I laid great emphasis on making science an important element in various school, university curriculum. I therefore recommend that science and mathematics should be taught on compulsory basis to all children as a part of general education during first 10 years of schooling. It's already implemented in every country, in every city, state, etc. So in addition, there should be a provision of special course in these subjects at the secondary stage for students of more than average ability. The UNESCO International Education Commission 1972 recommended that science and technology must become essential components in any educational enterprise, must be incorporated into all educational activity intended for children, young people, and adults. Science has now become a compulsory subject in the school curriculum because of its multifarious value to the individual as well as the society. So first, intellectual value. The science has introduced us to new ways of thinking and reasoning. Scientific knowledge helps to sharpen our intellect and promotes intellectual honesty. The science education can develop the positive attitude like open-mindedness. Such positive is helpful to an individual to understand and evaluate and solve many problems faced in life. Second is vocational value. In present age, all the vocation need the knowledge of science. Moreover, there are a large number of vocations for which study of science is compulsory requirement. Examples like medicine, engineering, computers, paramedicines, agriculture, etc. So the study of science at a school level is the basis of many vocations and other productive activities in the latter life of students. Next is aesthetic value. Knowledge of science develops in man a passion for truth, and thus he has a passion for beauty. The English poet Keats has said, truth is beauty. So science is basically unfolding of the mysteries of nature, and nature, is a storehouse of all the beautiful things. Thus, teaching of science is necessary for developing aesthetic sense in an individual. Next is utilitarian value. Scientific principles and laws find a large number of applications in our everyday life. For proper utility of such applications, knowledge of science is necessary. Electronics, electricity, communication, transport, etc. All integral part of our life is strongly influenced and advanced due to advancement in science. Thus, teaching of science is necessary from utilitarian point of view. Next is cultural value. Science has played an important role in determining the value and civilization of a country from time to time. It has affected our way of thinking and a way of living. Science has a direct influence in dispelling many traditional beliefs. Science has made us more aware of the universe we live. The scientists take an equal responsible part in the vital issue of our country so as to bring about consideration and integration of scientific developments and our cultural heritage. Next, moral value. Knowledge of science develops in us truthfulness and reasoning. These qualities are desirable in all human beings. These qualities make the life worth living. This could be possible with the teaching of science. Next is psychological value. Teaching of science is essential for developing attitude and scientific temper. The principle of learning by doing expression of the children's. Next is adjustment value. Science develops in us a scientific attitude. It also develops in an individual a problem-solving attitude. Is it visible? My
Yes, visible. Yeah.
I apologize for my network problem. Okay, so I was discussing adjustment value. So science develops in us a scientific attitude. It also develops in an individual a problem-solving attitude. This attitude helps to solve any problems in life successfully. A person having scientific attitude lives a peaceful and successful life. Next is leisure time value. So science has helped us to overcome the problem of passing our leisure time.
Your slide is not moving. Pratik, sir, sorry for interruption. Your slide is not moving.
Is it place in school curriculum? I'm discussing
right.
Sure. Leisure time value. The ninth point is leisure time value. So science has helped us to overcome the problem of passing our leisure time and to make best use of it. Science has provided us with a large number of devices such as television, radio, cinema, which are the source of entertainment to all of us. They also serve as source of knowledge and are used for spread of mass education and making the community aware of dangers of various ills. Science has also provided a large number of hobbies which we can pursue in our leisure time. For example, photography. Thus, from this above discussion, it is very clear that a subject which is so valuable and psychologically based and so closely connected with our daily life is justified to be included in curriculum, and hence science education is valuable in students' individual life as also his life in society. Next, general and specific instrumental objectives. The subject taught in the schools have their own identity, importance, and educational values. The educational value of a subject is established by goals, aims, and objectives, which are achieved by through the study of the subject. The aims or long-term goals can be regarded as expression of strategy, while objectives are specific, immediate, and attainable goals specific to one subject, precise and clearly defined. Objectives are more directly concerned with what specifically is being attempted over a relatively short period. An objective is a plan, is a point or an end view of the possible achievement in terms of what a pupil, children, is to be able to do when the whole educational system is directed towards educational aims. So the objectives are first general objectives and second specific instrumental objectives. So the major issue in the field of education today is organizing science curriculum in an effective manner. Therefore, our two major approaches regarding organization of science, disciplinary approach and integrated approach. These two approaches are explained below. So first is the general, you can say general objectives. So the Directorate of Extension Programs in Education, Government of India, in its brochure on evaluation of general science, sets some of the objectives of teaching general science in secondary schools. So I would like to discuss those objectives. So the first is pupils studying general science should acquire knowledge of the fundamentals of science useful to all in everyday life. They should develop the ability to apply the knowledge in everyday life. They should acquire experimental skills such as handling apparatus and instruments, arranging apparatus for an experiment, preserving apparatus, chemicals, specimens, models. They should acquire constructional skills such as improving simple instruments and appliances and preparing certain instruments and appliances of everyday use. They should also develop drawing skills such as drawing and sketching certain objects, instruments, and arrangements, and photography in certain objects and specimens. They should be able to locate reliable and recent information from appropriate sources. They should be able to interpret scientific data given in various forms such as tabular, graphical, scientific. They should develop the power of minute observation of their surroundings. They should develop the power of oral expression in science to discuss, or you can say argue, describe, and raise questions using scientific terminology. They should develop the scientific method in thinking and action. They should also adopt the scientific attitude in making statements, accepting information, and forming belief. They should also develop interest in scientific reading and hobbies. They should be able to appreciate the impact of science on life, both personal and social. The struggle through which science has advanced, and the inspiring work for the scientists. Next is instrumental objectives. So specific objectives are related to a particular topic in a particular period of time. So these objectives can be further divided into four categories. One is knowledge, second is understanding, third is application, and last is skills. So first, knowledge. The children acquires knowledge of terms, concepts, symbols, definitions, principles, processes, and formula of science. Second, in the knowledge, specification is very important. So to demonstrate the achievement of these are objectives like knowledge, understanding, application, skills, the children first recalls or reproduces, and second recognizes. These are the two specifications regarding knowledge. Next is understanding. The children develops understanding of terms, concepts, symbols, definitions, principles, process, formula, reaction, mechanisms. So in the understanding point, there are some specifications. So to demonstrate the achievement of the specification objective, the children give illustrations, compares, discriminates between closely related concepts, classifies, identifies relationship, estimate the results, interprets, verifies. So these are the processes: verification, interpretation, estimation, identification, classification, comparison, illustration. So in the second point, understanding, this should be there. Third is application. So the children applies all his knowledge and understanding of science to unfamiliar situations, a new problem. So to demonstrate the application point or application objective, the children analyze a given problem, construct hypothesis based on observations, arrange experiments for verification of hypothesis, develop relation between reason and effect, be able to give logic in favor of events happening in science, draw conclusions from fact acquired from observations, and the last, skills. The skills are very important. The children acquire skill in experimentation, construction, observation, drawing, and problem solving. So to demonstrate the achievement of skill objective, the children draw diagram nearly, you can say proportionality and methodology. Keep the apparatus of specimen systematically. Handle apparatus properly. These are the specifications. Handle apparatus properly. Improvise apparatus models and experiments. Locate errors and limitations in setup and in procedures. Solve numerical problems concerning physical sciences. Measure the objective and events in terms of physical qualities, quantities, and units. So these are the four objectives, specific objective: knowledge, understanding, application, skills, which I discussed now. Now, it is important to note that these objectives are determined before teaching starts. If these objectives are not clear for science teacher, he or she may be deviated from their path. Teacher will not be sure what's supposed to teach, why it is to be taught, how is it to be taught. Hence, these are the type of questions. So hence, it is very essential for a science teacher to predetermine the objective of science. So this is the organization of just a minute. Okay. So next is organization of science curriculum. The main purpose of every university school is to make the child a complete and perfect man. This will help the child to be able to lead his life in a better way than he is today. Therefore, schooling is an important human activity. Informal school education curriculum is the major means to impact knowledge and skills. Different scholars have defined it in different ways. So the curriculum is a tool in the hands of artists. Artist is what? Teacher. Teacher is an artist to mold his material. Material is children according to his ideas. Ideas are objectives. In his studio, studio is school. So that's why I call a teacher is an artist. So the curriculum is the sum total of the experiences of the children that he receives through the manifold activities that go on in the school, in the classroom, in the laboratory, in the library, on the playground, in the workshop and seminars, and in the numerous informal contacts between teacher and children. So the major issue in the field of education today is organizing science curriculum in an effective manner. Therefore, there are two major approaches regarding organization of science curriculum: disciplinary approach and integrated approach. So these two approaches are, I have explained below. So this approach is also known as the subject approach or the traditional approach, as each subject is separately taught by the teacher in the area of the particular subject in question. For example, science was traditionally taught as a subject with different compartments such as physics, biology, and chemistry as a separate components of the science subject. Similarly, language was taught as a separate subject from other subjects. English was taught as being different from Hindi, Oriya, history, geography, etc. So thus each subject has a well-defined boundary from which there is no connection to the other. Thus the approach in which every subject is taught as a separate discipline is called the disciplinary approach. This approach is based on the premise that the subject is a storehouse of facts, methods, theories, concepts, and generalizations. In disciplinary approach, the focus is more on the subject and its content rather than the process. In India, the disciplinary approach is very popular in the higher secondary level. It shall be the responsibility of a teacher to show the connection between different disciplines. Disciplines are subjects, basically. So, characteristics of disciplinary approach. First, in-depth conceptual knowledge. Every subject has detailed and in-depth conceptual knowledge. Second, disciplinary-based teaching. Each subject is taught as a separate discipline. Third, content-based teaching. The teaching of disciplinary-based curriculum largely based on content. Fourth, source of knowledge or information. So in disciplinary approach, the teacher is the main source of knowledge, or you can say information. Fifth, main purpose. The main purpose of disciplinary approach is to prepare specialists, scientists, etc. Six is, these are the characteristics of disciplinary approach. Sixth characteristic is mastery of the subject. The learner is expected to master the subject matter. Next is chalk and talk based teaching. This approach mostly leads to chalk and talk based teaching. That's the traditional method. Everyone knows this method, chalk and talk based teaching. Next is textbook is main authority. So this approach restrains student observations, values, or conclusions different from the textbook, which is the main authority in disciplinary approach. Next is importance of the importance, or you can say advantages of the disciplinary approach. Expert in the subject, Then you can say this approach develops expertise in particular subject growth. The disciplinary approach fosters the growth of the subject, time saving. Then this approach is very time saving in terms of course completion, detailed conceptual understanding. The disciplinary approach of organizing science curriculum provides detailed conceptual understanding of the subject. Theory building. The disciplinary approach is very useful in building theory in particular subject or discipline. Next, high level thinking. As in disciplinary approach, the subject is storehouse of theories, concepts, generalizations. This leads to high level of thinking. Next, limitations of this approach. So first, less opportunity for creativity. Second, the disciplinary approach does not provide much opportunities for students' creativity. Third, dropout. Fourth, disinterest in particular subject discipline may lead to dropout. Require expert teachers. The disciplinary approach requires highly knowledgeable and expert teachers. Less scope of socialization and social skills. And last, isolated teaching reduces the scope of socialization and social skills. Next is integrated approach. An integrated approach allows learner to explore, gather, process, refine, and present information about the topics they want to investigate without the constraint imposed by traditional subject barriers. Integrated approach encourages students to see the interconnectedness and interrelationships between the different curriculum areas. Instead of focusing on learning in isolated curriculum areas, an integrated approach is based on skill development around a particular theme that is relevant to students of a particular class. So characteristics of integrated approach. First, wide conceptual knowledge. Integrated approach provides an opportunity for broader and wider conceptual knowledge. Second characteristic is child-centered teaching. Integrated approach promotes child-centered teaching. Next, integration of skills with contents. Integrated approach of curriculum organization promote integration of skills with contents. Next is teacher as a mediator. The role of a teacher is mediator between knowledge and child. Use of method. The integrated approach requires use of modern methods of teaching such as inquiry-based teaching. Next is flexibility. No rigid disciplines exist. So integrated approach is flexible. Next characteristic is preparation of future citizens. The main purpose of integrated approach is to prepare the future citizens of a society. Next is very important, openness. The approach is open to new ideas and procedures. And last, multi-learning environment. The approach requires multi-learning environment such as classroom, lab, outdoor, computer, internet, etc. So importance or advantages of integrated approach. First, detailed conceptual understanding. This approach helps the learner to get detailed conceptual understanding of the content. Next, choice-based selection of discipline or subject. Integrated approach help the students to select discipline means subject, according to their own interest. Next is creativity. This approach fosters creativity among learners. Next, promotion of modern methods. This approach promotes modern methods of teaching such as collaborative learning, cooperative learning, etc. Very important advantage is development of self-concept and socialization. So this approach helps in developing self-concept and socialization, and also realistic application. So this approach has realistic applications. Limitations of integrated approach. First, time consuming. Integrated approach is time consuming as a single theme analysis is done with different disciplines discipline point of view. Next is need of well-equipped and expert teacher. Integrated approach needs well-equipped and expert teachers who are capable of using modern methods of teaching. Third limitation is create confusion. If this approach is not handled carefully, then child may get confused in various disciplines. So this is the biggest disadvantage of this integrated approach. And last, proper selection and organization of various disciplines. Integrated approach needs expertise to select theme and organization of various disciplines. There is no definition of general science or science which is universally accepted. In general, we can define science as an accumulated and systematized learning in general usage restricted to natural phenomena. So science is the activity where truthfulness is obviously an essential condition for success. Its success is measured by its truthfulness. Today, each and every occasion of life is influenced by science, has become an integral part of our school, university, all education system. Next is method of teaching general science. So these are the methods of teaching general science. All the methods of teaching science can be classified into two types. First, teacher-centered, and second, pupil, children-centered. Or you can say child-centered. So first, teacher-centered methods. This type of teaching methods focus on telling, memorizing, recalling information. The students' participation is limited, wherein they only ask questions or answers questions. Most of the time, the students are passive listeners and receive the knowledge. The teacher is center of a process that goes on in the classroom. Second is child-centered methods. This process emphasizes on need, requirement, interest, and capability of students. The students are active participants wherein their skills and abilities are developed. The climate in the classroom is conducive where flexibility in there. Teacher and students jointly explore the different aspects of problem. The role of the teacher is to create a problematic situation, have materials and resources available to the students, and help them identify issues, state hypotheses, clarify and test hypotheses, and draw conclusions. So this is about child-centered methods. So as you can see in this diagram, teacher-centered model. So in this substantive dimension, then procedural dimension, environmental dimension. In substantive dimension, science, facts, and information is there. In procedural dimensions, we have repetition, memorization, all are interconnected. So in procedural dimension, science, facts, and informations are also there. In procedural dimension, teacher as authority and taskmaster. Okay. And in environmental dimension, formal teacher occupies central position, are also minimal use of new technology. So this is about teacher-centered method. This is the diagrammatic representation of teacher-centered method, or you can say model. Next is pupil or child-centered model. So this is, as you can see here, substantive dimension, procedural dimension, environmental dimension. Now in substantive dimension, scientific method, reflective method, scientific concepts and generalization are there. In procedural dimension, self-governing, procedural dimension is self-governing informal. Then in that, discovery and explanation of relationship. Then we have democratic group of participation and group decision making. Then also in procedural dimension, teacher, moderator, and generator of inquiry. And next is environmental dimension. So environmental dimension is self-governing, informal, seating arrangement flexible, and use of new technology. So all are facilitates higher inquiry process, results in critical reasoning, increases efficiency, and maximizes autonomy. Next is lecture. Next method is lecture cum discussion method. So lecture cum discussion method. This method is a combination of lecture method and discussion method. This is very helpful in building an active verbal interaction between the teachers and students. The teacher delivers the lecture and provides some time after 10 minutes the lecture for discussion among the students and teacher in the classroom. The students' views, comments, experiences, problems, difficulties in understanding any point or portion of the lecture come to teacher's knowledge, and teacher's replies and clarifies the doubt. It is an important strategy in stimulating the students' interest and assess their understanding of the concept. It is a process in which interaction goes on in between teacher and students, where in question and answer are asked and given by both the teacher and student, making the process interactive and effective. The basic purpose of this method is to disseminate information and attain educational objectives by learning. The discussion in the class is intended to be a give and take between teacher and students. Method helps students to apply critical thinking of power in various situations. Higher learning skills like analyzing, synthesizing, generalizing are given front seat. Next is principles of lecture cum discussion method. The principles are as follows. First, the teacher should be aware of needs of learners. Second, the teacher must arouse interest in the subject and sustain in the mind of students. Third, teacher must use visual aids and use ICT. Fourth, the teacher must take enough time to build mental pictures with new concepts, previous concepts also. And last, the knowledge moving from simple to difficult ideas for better conceptual development. Next, role of teacher in this method. So the teacher has to perform following roles. First, encourage students to participate in discussion. Second, ensure students' attention span is maintained. Third, pre-plan and prepare properly for discussion and support ideas with factual evidence. And fourth is examples. Fifth is encourage student taking than teacher talking. Next is, if possible, give time beforehand so that the discussion becomes productive. And last one is, do not dominate, rather get the discussion started, set goals, summarize, mediate, and clarify. Next is merit of lecture cum discussion method. Merit means advantages, you can say. So first, it creates democratic environment in the class. Second, develops and improves communication skills of students. It brings about attitudinal change among students. And last, it helps in assessing the factual knowledge of the students. Next, limitations of lecture cum discussion method. Disadvantages of these methods are as follows. First, it is helpful for mature students. Second, if it is not properly used, then the principle of learning by participating is not achieved. Third, if teacher does not handle students effectively, then the students may be in discipline rather than participation. Next is, if not managed properly, it will not help all types of students in the class. And last, teacher must control his emotions, else this may result in wrong output. Suggestion for improvement. So first, the teacher must maintain good eye contact with students in order to make the process meaningful. Second, the teacher must actively involve students. Third, the teacher must instruct clearly. The teacher must keep the group focused on the task. Teacher should use good time management techniques and evaluate students as they learn in the class. Next, teacher should not read extensively from lecture notes or textbooks, and teacher must not ignore participants' comments and feedback. Next method is laboratory method. This method is commonly thought as a hands-on and minds-on approach to teach science, wherein students have the opportunity to get some experience with phenomena associated with their course of study. In this method, either students participate alone or in small groups. They produce or make various variables that are under exploration. The degree of students have control over exploration can vary over a wide range. Here, the students learn by actual doing rather than by observing the experiments. As young children to do it by themselves, the experience is impressed more firmly in their minds. Thus, this method is psychologically sound as it satisfies the natural urge for activity. This method broadens interest of the students. They learn many virtues through laboratory activity. The experience in a laboratory is very rich in personal satisfaction as they gain it firsthand. The sense of excitement and challenge help them to achieve some tangible. Now, principles of laboratory method. It first follows the principle of learning by doing. Second, it follows psychological principle where students' age, lot, and interest is taken into consideration. Next, the work should be pre-organized and pre-selected. Teacher must see students are allowed to work independently without much interference. Next is the teacher must ensure that apparatus and equipment checked per hand. And last, teacher must see that students are able to follow instruction and record their observation properly. Now, role of teacher in this method. Teacher must be a facilitator of the process of doing experiments by students. Teacher must check the apparatus previously so that it goes on smoothly. The practical work must be pre-organized and pre-selected. The skills of handling apparatus, drawing, diagrams, careful observations taking necessary. Precautions must be developed among students. The teacher must be that the student is doing experiment properly by following proper procedure. Next is merits of laboratory method. So first, this method follows child-centered approach, which I discussed earlier also. It makes students active and alert. It gives scope for learning by doing, and students do not do a lot of thinking themselves. Different skills are developed. It paves way for exploration, experimentation and verification of scientific facts and principles. It inculcates good virtues like honesty, truthfulness, dignity of labor. It helps in developing a spirit of inquiring. Then it helps in developing higher order, this kind of capacities like reasoning, analyzing, synthesizing, etc. Suggestions to improve. So this method should not be considered independently, but should form a part of the total science program. The practical work must be pre-planned. It is imperative that same individual laboratory work must be done by every student. Instead of performing the experiment started in the book, should be little modified for better result. And last, before experiment in perform, the purpose must be clarified to the students. Next is observation method. So in this method, the student observes and acquires knowledge. So we cannot call this as a specific method of science teaching, but as a matter of fact, almost all science begins with observation. The students observe nature in groups, in lab, at a school, at home, or in gardens. The result of this process, information of a concept of nature, which is permanent in mind. The training of pupils in observation is really strong. His mind with suitable experiences, all thoroughly classified and digested. So science provides remarkable a training in observation and reasoning. The learners reasons from the once established facts and form concepts about further observed phenomena. So principles of observation. It is based on following principles. So first, principle of freedom, principle of experience, principle of playway, principle of individual effort, principle of activity, logical thinking, and purposefulness. Now, role of a teacher. A lot is expected, demanded of the teacher in this method. First, he must be man of knowledge and give adequate references for further observation. Second, he should possess curiosity, scientific attitude, interest, spirit of investigation, so as to inculcate such qualities among students who in turn observe and discover many things. He must provide an atmosphere for freedom in the classroom in order to encourage students to make observations. Third is he must be a guide, a working partner, and friend of the students. He should devise and plan different activities according to the age, ability, and interest of the student. Next, merit advantages of observation method. The work of the teacher becomes interesting. This is very, you can say, beautiful advantage. You know, the work of the teacher becomes interesting. The students see, think, give logic and thoughtful answers. The students learn the similarities and dissimilarities of objects clearly and easily. The knowledge acquired is permanent. Students develop interest in subject. Students become self-dependent, self-reliant, and self-confident. The problem of homework is solved. The relation between teacher and taught becomes intimate and healthy. Now, limitations of observation method. First, it is too much to expect children observe and retain knowledge. The students are in nature sometimes and their knowledge and thinking power is limited. It is not suitable for all the topic of science. This method is information, or you can say informative. The practical part of it remains underdeveloped. It is not economical from time point of view. And this method is also not economical as it requires a lot of preparation and maintenance from school point of view, where a student can observe many things. Now, suggestions to improve. The students must be given full freedom during observation. Interest and curiosity must be developed in students prior to making observation. The teacher must check and observe things beforehand. The teacher must put questions and pinpoint students' observation as and when required. The student must have science corner wherein student observation and activity goes on continuously. A student bulletin board, a museum shelf, aquaria and terraria must be there in school where a student develop a constant interest in the subject. A weather station must be set up wherein students observe the weather, develop interest. So these are the suggestions in this method for improvisation. Next is project method. So this method was propounded by W.H. Kilpatrick. This method was perfected by, further modified by, you can say, J.A. Stinson. The base of this method lies in the philosophy of pragmatism. This method emphasizes on building a comprehensive unit around an activity which may be carried out in school or outside. The essence of this method lies in the fact that a group of students do a purposeful task. This implies the students undertake the activity in a group or individually over a period of, you can say, time. It may include a number of activities, and the end product is in the form of written report or a display. A project is a wholehearted, purposeful activity proceeding in a social environment by Dr. William Kilpatrick, who is the, you can say, inventor of this method. A project is a problematic act carried to completion in its natural setting. This is quoted by Stevenson. A project is a bit of real life that has been imported into school by Bellard. Thus, project is a purposeful activity and plan activity which is achieved in social natural situations created in schools. Now, principles of project method. The principle of freedom, purpose, activity, interest, utility, correlation, sociability, experience, reality, or learning by doing. Next, types of project. All the project can be divided majorly into two types: individual project, group project. According to Kilpatrick, projects are of four projects: producer projects, consumer projects, problem projects, dream projects. Producer project. Here the emphasis is on actual construction of a material object or article. Consumer project. Here the emphasis is gained on obtaining either direct or vicarious experience, such as reading and learning stories, listening to a musical delectation, etc. Next is problem projects. The main purpose is to solve a problem using intellectual process, such as determining the density of a certain liquid. Next is drill projects. This type of project emphasizes on attaining a certain degree of skill in a reaction as learning a vocabulary. Steps of project method. Providing a situation. The teacher provides a situation to the students which must create same problems, and students must feel interested to work. Choosing and purposing. The students are tempted to choose a project. The teacher should stimulate discussion by suggestion. While choosing the project, the teacher should bear in need that it should be a real need to students. The purpose of a project must be clearly defined to the students. The project must be common and acceptable to all. In case of wrong choosing, the teacher must help students tactfully to see that the student choose a better project. They should be asked to write down the reasons for selection. Next is planning. The success of the project lies in the good planning. The student should plan out the whole project under the guidance of teacher. Every child must be encouraged to participate in the discussion and make suggestions. All the students are encouraged to write down the plan neatly and properly. Executing. Execution of different activities to different students on the basis of their capacity leads to successful completion of the project work. It is the longest step and requires meticulous assignment of duties to different students or groups. The teacher must guide and encourage students. It is the duty of the teacher to keep watch on the process of activities and instruct as and when required. Evaluation. This is very important step as the students review the project and find out mistakes, if any. Self-criticism is very important at this stage. The student discuss their work and rectify their mistakes and recollect useful knowledge. The teacher says that the objective of the project have been achieved. Like recording, the students keep a complete record of entire activity, how they planned, discussions were held, how duties are assigned, how criticism were made, which will help them in their future work. Examples of projects are arrangement of science fair, preparation of soap, chalk, candling, improvised apparatus, beautifying campus, establishing science museum, establishing physical science laboratory, painting iron apparatus to present it from rusting. So these are the examples of projects. Role of teacher. Teacher must be a friend, guide, working partner. Teacher must have you can say thorough knowledge of individual student and allot work accordingly. Provide democratic atmosphere. He should learn with students and should not claim to know everything. He must be inexperienced, initiative, and process tact for creating positive ambience. Advantages. It promotes cooperative activity, arouses and maintains interest of students, keeps the students on freedom of thought and action while doing the work, develops scientific attitude, widens the mental horizon of student, develops dignity of labor. The students learn by self-activity. It supports all the laws of learning, that is law of readiness, law of exercise, law of effect. The correlation of subjects is best followed in this method. The subjects are not treated as watertight compartments, and this is a psychological method. Disadvantages. The knowledge is not acquired in a sequential manner. There may be a chance of overlapping of subject matter. If not planned and executed properly, then it may not be completed in time. It is time-consuming process. It may be a costly affair wherein same items things may not be available at times. There may be a overdevelopment of individualism and underdevelopment of cooperation and group responsibility. If the topic is wrongly selected, then the objective may not be achieved. It gives to students a superficial knowledge of great many things. Therefore, it is not suitable for all types of students. This method is not suitable for a mature teacher. The whole syllabus for higher classes cannot be accomplished with this method. Suggestions to improve: that the topic should have some educational value. Project should be selected according to the student's interest. Entire course should not be planned only using this method. The objective of the project must be clear and defined. Students should be assigned various duties according to their capabilities. The students should be given freedom to interact among themselves. Next is, and I guess last, problem-solving method. Science subject is one of the important subjects in school education. However, really the traditional teaching methods are challenged for their inability to foster critical thinking, holistic learning environment among children. The science subject must develop science process skills where children observe, measure, classify, process information, interpret, think on solving problems, analyze, synthesize, formulate conclusions, etc. But it should be kept in mind that creativity in an essential element of this PS, problem-solving method. In a problem-solving method, children learn by working on problems. This enables the students to learn new knowledge by facing the problems to be solved. The students are expected to observe, understand, analyze, interpret, find solutions, perform applications that lead to a holistic understanding of the concept. This method develops scientific process skills. This method helps in developing brainstorming approach to learning concepts. The students' thinking on problem and their understanding of the science behind it is based on common sense. It does not start from textual knowledge. Rather, it proceeds from experiencing to gradually forming concepts through books at larger scale. It is a process from practice to theory, not vice versa. Knowledge here is not a goal, but a natural outcome of working on tasks. Students live in the real world and like to deal with concrete things where they can touch, feel, manipulate things. Then the method is useful in igniting the process of science learning. Principles: learning by doing, purpose, freedom of thought, learning by experiencing, utility, scientific attitude, interest, reality, concreteness, objectivity. Steps in problem solving method: selection of problem, presentation of problem, collection of facts, drawing and outlines to reach a satisfactory conclusion, evaluation, writing report. Selection of the problem. A remember of problems are confronted by the students in the class or outside. They are made to select a problem as per their capacity and interest. Presentation of problem. Each student is made to feel responsible for presenting the problem in front of the teacher and class as per his insight. The students are free to give their suggestions on the problem. Next is collection of facts. All the facts related to the problem are collected either by a students or group. As a number of facts will be collected, it will help the students to keep the most pertinent facts and discard rest. Drawing an outline. This is most important phase, as a proper outline at this stage will lead to purposeful activity. The teacher will guide students to draw exact plan and follow it properly so that the solution to problem is reached. It is more or less like planning stage, wherein a clear indication of outline leads to better result. To reach a satisfactory conclusion, it is the longest step and required utmost patience. The tentative solutions which are offered by students are properly noted down. A good number of arrangement, discussions, brainstorming results in reaching a satisfactory conclusion. The teacher has to be very careful at this stage, as it may lead to wrong conclusions. The discussions must be healthy and conducive atmosphere must be provided in the classroom for it. Next is evaluation. The student review the entire process and find out each and every stage wherein they have made any mistakes. Self-criticism, self-realization will give training of self-confidence. The teacher must see that objective have been achieved. Writing a report, a complete report must be written by students. This will include how they plan, what discussions were held, how duties were assigned, how satisfactory conclusions were reached, etc. The writing of report will be maintained as a record which will be used in future course of time. Role of a teacher. Teacher must work as a facilitator, must keep in mind that if in a child-directed learning, not teacher-directed, teacher must provide situation for all students to come form and contribute towards the success of the activity. He must be alert, active, to arouse interest among students. Teacher must provide democratic atmosphere, must be initialized, tactful, and well experienced. Merits of problem-solving method. Students develop democratic fatigue. This method follows the principle of learning by doing. They learn to use old facts in new references. They become capable to generalize. Students learn to find solution to their problem. And demerits. It is not economical from time and money point of view. There is always a doubt of drawing wrong conclusions. There is a short of talented teachers to practice this method, and this is not suitable for all levels of students. Suggestions to improve. The time period must be fixed. The objective should be fixed for a problem. Proper attention must be gained by teacher towards students' activities. All students should be given equal opportunity to put forth their problems and ideas. As far as possible, the process of a group formation should be psychological. Apart from improvement of teaching, the objective of this method should be development of routine problem solving skills. As we have seen, all about methods have their pros and cons, but effectiveness of teaching depends upon the method that teacher adopts. Group teaching does not happen overnight. For effective teaching, knowledge of different methods of teaching science is essential. The teacher, however, must be free to choose any method that he thinks is suited to the students. For many decades now, which is not practiced, that is creating excitement of science. Use of new and innovative methods must be practiced now. Same are discussed here. In lecture cum discussion method is best suited for all lots of students. The basic purpose of this method is to disseminate and encourage them to take part in the discussion. However, teacher has to see that all students are given equal chance, or else this will lose its chance. In laboratory method, the student controls and observe the changes under investigation. Students learn by actual activity. Students learn many virtues through laboratory activity. Observation method encourages students to develop a keen power of observation and acquire knowledge. This aims at training students' mind to store suitable experiences for reasoning and establish facts, observation of nature, develop a sense of satisfaction, and develops awareness towards protection of nature. Project method has certain steps to be followed by students. This method is based on philosophy of pragmatism, as I discussed earlier also. So I'm just concluding. The sense of practicalism develops an attitude to undertake the activity and complete it scientifically. Problem-solving method develops scheme of finding solution to the problem on their own. The students' thinking on problem and their understanding of the science behind anything helps them to solve problems of their life objectivity. Students live in the real world and like to deal with concrete things. At the end, we can conclude that it is you teachers who have to keep in mind which method is suitable to which type of students under what circumstance. Every method has its merits and demerits. The choosing of method depends on your intelligence, resourcefulness. So next is teaching general science, so which I discussed earlier also. So I would like to conclude with the need and I guess already this method is already I discussed. So we can conclude now, and thank you so much all the listeners, audience, teacher, educators, IIU members for listening me. This was an exhaustive session, I must say, but I hope you all are enjoyed. And thank you so much, Mr. Piyush Pandit, for giving us the opportunity to express, to deliver our ideas, views, our knowledge, information through this prestigious international platform. So once again, I would like to thank each one of you. Thank you.